Your box is now at this stage. This one has already had its top cut off and this one is still whole. You can actually pour the polyester resin at either stage, but I recommend it's often easier to pour it when the box is still whole. So we've got the box whole here. Before we start, one or two things. We need to make sure we've got an apron on, and I've got some disposable gloves on here. The polyester resin we're going to be using for our design is incredibly sticky and also stains clothing, so you want to make sure you're properly protected, and you will be covering your work surface with newspaper to avoid damaging it. Before we start, we need to make sure that the board here is properly sealed. If you've glued the top properly, that is likely to be the case, but we need to go around here with a paintbrush and some PVA, especially paying special attention to the corners to make sure that this is sealed. Otherwise, there's a real risk that the resin will seep beyond this and into the inside of your box. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do that now, because if this is still wet, the PVA, you cannot pour the resin in. So this has already been done, and you can probably see a slight sheen there where the PVA has been done around the corners. Make sure you just do it in the edges, you don't have to do it in the middle. One other thing, almost everybody's box in the class will look like this now, so you need to make sure you have your name on your box. A lot of children will put their name here on top of the box, which is an excellent place to put it, but obviously we're going to be pouring some resin on top of that, so we will be obliterating the name. So make sure you write your name either on the bottom of the box on the inside there or on the edge. Not on the side, because we've cleaned the side up, so we don't want to be writing our name there. So here I've got some polyester resin. I've mixed up some black here, and here I've got a sort of mustardy yellow. I'm only going to be using two colours for the demonstration, although of course when you actually do this yourself there will be more than two colours available. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a base colour, and we're going to fill the entire of this box up to the edges here with our base colour. And for this I'm going to use this mustard yellow, which looks quite dark at this stage but actually does dry quite a lot lighter. So give it a good mix before you pour it in, because this is the resin with a hardener in it, and we're going to pour it straight from the container into the middle of the box. And we want to ideally just get it so it's level with the top of the box. Obviously if we put too much in, it's going to overflow and it's going to make a horrible mess. And we're just going to tap it there in the corners to make sure that the resin has penetrated all the way round. And that's just about perfect. Now, it will be likely that some of you will spill resin either on the side, or you maybe even put too much resin into the box and it will start to overflow. If that happens, don't worry, but do leave it alone, because if you try and clean it up at this stage, you will just make the situation worse. So now we're going to do our designs, and this is where you have the chance to get creative. A lot of children say to me, we'd like to put our initial on the box, and that is possible, but it is quite tricky. So I'm going to show you one or two techniques. So my initial of my surname is H, so I'm going to demonstrate how we might be able to put an H on the box, or at least a part of an H. And whenever you're pouring the resin, make sure that the little spill here does not touch the box, because you will contaminate the black resin here. So we're just going to lift a little out and we're going to drop it into our design. Now I'm going to try and make part of an H. I'm going to try and drop a little bit of resin in there. And if I was going to make an H, I would use this to pull that out. And there we are, we've got the start, one side of an H. I'm not going to do the full H because I'm going to show you some other techniques as well. And what we use for that is a cocktail stick. It's a very fine stick which we're going to use for some of our designs. We're just going to drop some colour onto it, like that. So at the moment we've got a spot. Some people leave their design like that, that can be very effective. But if we take our cocktail stick, we can swirl the design around a bit. There we've got a nice swirled pattern going on. As I say, we can be using another colour as well. For instance, I might use a red here. So that's one thing we can do. Another thing, another style of decoration, is to take the resin. Again, I'm going to pour some in there. And I'm going to use the cocktail stick again. And this time I'm going to pull it away. There really is absolutely no limit as to what you can achieve, so this gives you a real chance to get creative here. I would advise you not to use too many colours and not to spend too much time with the design, because if you do too much it will end up looking a bit messy, and often it's the simplest designs that look the best. So we've got our box to this stage now. There's nothing more you can do for the moment. We just need to put this to one side for 24 hours for that to harden before we move on to the next stage.